You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is March the 9th, 2020. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Spring's around the corner. Carl, is it warm over there?
I woke up this morning with a wind chill of negative 19.
No way! It was like plus 10 here.
Oh, well, by the end of the day, I think it peaked at 1 degree. It was a real whirlwind day weather-wise.
Oh, well, this is why I'm in such a good mood today. The weather's been fantastic yesterday and today.
Well, I lost an hour's sleep yesterday. It was a full moon. I no longer get to drive to work in sunlight. I now drive in the dark again. Thank you. And it was minus 20 with a wind chill, essentially. So we had very different days.
Wow. So we're in for quite the show today.
I mean, I'd like to think that I've taken the necessary steps to I ate, so I'm not going to be hangry at least for today.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
But I'm glad. Yeah. And actually, that is one thing that I realized. We are 1 month away from the end of the regular season, Nick.
And you know what? Nobody knows how this thing's going to end.
There's a lot that can happen.
Yeah. This is like just crazy hockey happening right now.
And it didn't fully dawn on me until I was talking with one of our listeners this week. And he commented, and we'll get to what started this, but he commented on the Roman Josi hit on Corey Perry that ended up just being a $5,000 fine because that's all the NHL does anymore. Yeah. He said, "Man, I'm really disappointed that I'm going to be missing Roman Josi for my fantasy playoffs." At which point I said, apparently that's happening. I mean, which is great. I'm in a playoff spot in our listener league, so
I'm not.
No, being gifted Connor McDavid at 3rd overall cannot outweigh the picking of Dustin Byfuglien in the 3rd round.
No, it sure can't. And you know what? I tried a couple weeks ago. I actually really tried. I was picking guys up, dropping guys. I was setting my lineup twice a day. Like just really into it, and I just couldn't climb the standings.
Well, that's good. I wonder if I play you once more before the season's out. That'd be nice. get some extra points. Yeah, for me. Yeah. Get some extra points. Well, and yeah, so we've got just under a week left until the playoffs start. Lots for us to get to today. Let's get into it, Nick. The NHL has officially done what every sports league in North America has done, announcing today in a joint statement that locker rooms across the league are closed. So them, with Major League Baseball, MLS, NBA, and NHL released this statement after consultation with infectious disease and public health experts, and given the issues that can be associated with close contact in pre- and post-game settings, all team locker rooms and clubhouses will be open only to players and essential employees of teams and team facilities until further notice. There it is, Nick. The coronavirus.
You can't trust those reporters to wash their hands.
That's what I get that you want to protect the players, right? They are the most valuable assets you have, and you don't want them getting sick. But how dirty are reporters?
You know what it is, in all honesty, these guys are flying to these games. It's about them spending time in airports and on airplanes. And then, just being dirty and not washing their hands, apparently.
Yeah. And actually, so outside of over the weekend, all of these teams were shutting down locker rooms and doing all these things. Last night in San Jose, the Colorado Avalanche did not. So if anything happens with my Avalanche, we'll find out. But they did have a sign outside that said no handshakes, no hugs, no touching. I'm like, just close it.
I'm pretty sure all that altitude just kills the germs anyways.
Well, good news. It was in San Jose, so we're all dead. It's not going to go well.
Yeah, it's warm there. Germs last a long time in that heat.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. There's no way that's going to work. So that's where we are. So press conferences, post-game press conferences going to be held, and we've seen some of these already, going to be held podium style. The NHL now has a designated hand washer person who will put a clean microphone in front of the players so they do not have to touch it. They do not have to worry about it. The media is kept a distance away from them on the other side of the table, which seems like enough.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Well, and so we have that. You mentioned the travel, right? Teams, not really. They don't go through the same protocol.
No, and they got their own. They got their own airplanes too, right? Private planes.
Exactly. So they're chartering planes, and most of them have deals with Air Canada or whomever. So I think from that side, I would say teams are keeping themselves safe in that regard. But one thing that we're seeing across the world in many areas, the biggest one of late, is the second race of the Formula One season going to be raced with no one in the stands.
Weird, right?
Yeah. Super strange. I mean, we've seen it happen selectively in sports before. Remember there was like an active shooter situation I want to say in Baltimore a couple of seasons ago, and the Orioles played to an empty stadium. Like,
I do not remember that.
We're not canceling this game, but we're not bringing thousands of fans in here.
It must be so weird, A, to play that kind of game, but B, to watch it on TV.
It was surreal. I mean, like something would happen and there's no reaction.
Yeah. And do they still play like music? Like, do they play their walk-up music?
I want to say yes. I think they did.
So they would play like goal songs if a hockey team scored a goal?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Just to an empty arena with the strobe lights going? It would be the weirdest thing.
The cannon in Columbus just echoes through the building. But that is a legitimate reality that, I mean, even last week, we talked at the end of our episode about coronavirus and the impacts on the NHL. And that wasn't even really a thing that had crossed our minds.
Yeah, it's crazy how much of a serious turn this has taken in just a week. And if I'm being honest, I can't really tell if it's purely preventative or if people are kind of like, well, we know it's bad. We just don't know how bad it is. So let's put these procedures in place.
Well, I think some of it is preventative. And certainly there is an overreaction from some people.
For sure.
Right? In general public. But these are businesses that are putting their financial well-being on the line based on this. Because I've tried to look into it, and I do not see any sort of way that, and maybe you have a thought on this. Do you think the NHL has an insurance policy that would get them money back for lost revenue if they have to shut the doors because of an illness?
Probably not because of an illness. I could see something that exists because of like a tornado or a hurricane or something
weather
of the sort.
For sure.
Weather,
a blizzard.
I don't know if anyone would write an insurance policy for a global pandemic.
Well, and that's, I mean, it's the same sort of thing where, like, I mean, we have earthquake insurance here in Alberta. Never really been an earthquake to worry about.
Yeah.
But we have it. It's one of those things that you go and you look through your insurance policy and you're like, turns out we do. That's a thing.
Yeah.
But if they do shut the doors, certainly TV revenue will go up.
Yep.
But that's not their main stream. That's a fixed number. That's great for the local broadcasters. But the NHL isn't getting extra money because of that. The teams aren't getting extra money because of that. And will certainly be a hit in the pocketbooks.
Huge. They're refunding tickets. They're not getting concession sales. They're not getting merch sales that day.
Which we saw this week, actually. The NHL came out and said the salary cap could go all the way up to $88 million next year, somewhere between 84 and 88 million. I think if we start seeing doors of arenas being shut, that number's coming way down.
Yeah. Man, I really hope it doesn't come to that. That would be a very strange thing to watch.
Well, and especially, I mean, again, we're a month away from the start of the playoffs, and I have no idea the path that this will take. I mean, depending on what approach is taken, if we look at the precedent set by what they did in China, right? Like with a full-on lockdown of areas, which is still going on. They're just ending that now, 40 days after cases really started to ramp up there.
Yeah.
That's into playoffs. Like that's when you start getting out of this. So I would not be at all surprised if we start to see empty stadiums.
No, nor would I. I mean, they're going to play the games still. They're not going to go the IHF route. I mean, I don't think the IHF has canceled the men's worlds yet, but I know that they're on the chopping block next. They just canceled the women's worlds in Halifax. Which was much sooner.
Yeah. Canceled that. That was going to be at the end of March, beginning of April. So they have an extra month out until the men's tournament, but
I don't have a lot of hope for that tournament.
No, certainly not. And interesting approach. If you were a ticket holder for that tournament, would you be happy that they just give you one for next year?
I don't know. I guess that, to me, that's the least preferable option. I'd rather them just refund me my money. And then if I decide to go next year, I'll buy a ticket.
Yeah, just give it, especially if you're from out of town.
Yeah.
If I'm from out of town, airlines are not giving out refunds right now. They're real hesitant about that one.
Yeah.
You've got hotels, you've got flight. Like, I want to get back as much money as possible. I don't want to have to do this again.
Yeah, 100%.
So we've got that situation. One thing that it did remind me of, Nick, let's think back to a time in 2014. Do you remember what about 2014 has this on my mind of late?
6 years ago?
Do you remember 6 whole years ago? It would be 5 seasons ago because it was December 2014.
I have no idea. I mean, I have some ideas, but I don't know when these other things happened.
Mumps, Nick. Thinking of the mumps.
I remember the mumps. I remember that picture of Sidney Crosby. This
was when Sidney Crosby and 13 other NHLers came down with a case of the mumps, causing what could only be described, it was an outbreak throughout the league, for sure, when that many players are coming down with it. A very serious thing, and shows that if, hypothetically, someone were to get coronavirus, how easily it could spread when that sort of a thing, for a vaccinatable issue, spreads throughout the league, could definitely become an issue. Oh my God.
It would fly. It would rip through these locker rooms. Like you said, the mumps did. The regular flu does every year. Anytime a player gets sick, there's like 4 players on that team who are sick.
Well, that's because Brad Marchand is licking everyone. I mean, it's bound to happen. Anything he has, the rest of the league is getting. So
okay, so if he does that right now, what are the consequences?
Oh my goodness! If we're coming up on the playoffs, Brad Marchand licking someone, it's more than their typical $5,000 fine. That's for sure.
I think so too. He'd get in way more trouble than he did last time.
How quickly do you think he gets tested after that game?
Immediately.
Yeah. Does he get out of the locker room?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think
Absolutely
so. Absolutely
not.
Well, there we go, Nick. Lots to come. This is a situation that's changing rapidly, as you know. So we'll see. As next week, hopefully, there's less to report. I mean, the more that there is for us to talk about, the less good that is. And obviously, hope that it kind of starts to ramp down. Not a scientist, not a doctor, and not sure what it'll take to make that happen, but hoping for the best.
Me too. I am also neither of those things.
No. Well, if you're looking for that podcast, there's lots of them out there. Like every podcast is talking about some impact on their corner of the world with
That's
this.
right.
So just go find that podcast you're looking for and make it happen. All right. As we talk about playoffs and playoff fights happening, Nick, it's not just playoff positions that teams are fighting for. Playoff lives. It's the top of the playoffs are some pretty hotly contested fights. Sometimes literally, as we saw on the weekend as Tampa and Boston met with quite the side effects.
What a fiery game, eh? Like the first period in the first 10 minutes, Tampa scores 2 shorthanded goals on the same penalty kill. That can't feel good for the Bruins. It feels good for everyone else in the world. It doesn't feel good for the Bruins, though.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that had something to do with the heightened emotions in the rest of the game. That and Brad Marchand.
Certainly. Well, and not just him. We had other issues. We had who was that? Someone took a cross check to the head. We had fights happening, full online brawls with wrestling matches and everything happening. It was quite the scene.
Yeah, not teams you really, maybe Boston a little bit, but you don't really expect this kind of rough and tough and tumble from Tampa.
But we did. Tampa coming out with the win, moving even closer to knocking Boston off. They are 6 points back of Boston as of right now. Certainly something they can do to catch them.
Yeah, they could definitely catch them. I don't know if they will, but they can.
Yeah, and if you are wondering, they do have the same amount of wins. So Boston can thank the loser point for them being ahead of Tampa.
There you go. Tampa got one of those last night.
Did they?
Against the Detroit Red Wings.
The loser point. Man, 2 in a row for you.
I know. And the win last night against Tampa Bay, Detroit snapped a 16-game losing streak against the Lightning.
That is unreal.
Yeah, it dates back to like 2015 or 2016. It's really bad.
You know what does it date back to like literally the first time Steve Yzerman was the general manager?
I was just wondering that. It's got to be pretty close.
So
Yzerman was there for like 9 years.
So he broke the curse then, is what you're telling me.
He certainly broke the curse for the Red Wings, but he didn't create it for them. He was already there.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's great for the Red Wings. I mean, anytime. I enjoyed the fact that they tweeted out after, because they played Saturday as well, or was it Friday?
I think they played Sunday.
Well, they played Sunday against Tampa, and then whenever they played the game before that got them the first of 2 in a row.
Friday.
They tweeted out 1 in a row, which I really appreciated.
You got to have some fun, right?
I mean, everyone knows you're bad. You're not hiding that fact from anybody.
No. So you might as well embrace it, especially at this point. Like, the playoffs are mathematically impossible.
Yeah, you're not making it. Just enjoy the ride. Just have some fun with it.
It was great, actually, on the broadcast on Sunday. They actually went through the prospects and talked about why they won't be playing in Detroit this year.
Like all of them.
Yeah, like their previous like 3 or 4, 5 top 10 picks. They're just like, here's one of the top 10 picks. He will not be playing in Detroit this year. Here's why.
I mean,
when you got nothing else to talk about with the big club,
why not?
Why not? So Tampa Boston, did you watch the broadcast of the line brawl?
I saw the highlights of the Jack Edwards call of that fight. Yes.
That's got to be the worst play-by-play guy in the league, right?
I would say so. There are some pretty bad ones if you go across, but like, and they're all a little bit homerish. Like if you watch any broadcast, but
100%. That one's bad.
Not good.
Not good. He made 2 comments that I'm gonna not quite quote, but paraphrase about Alex Killorn. Take your Harvard degree right to the hospital. And in regards to Chara, Zdeno Chara is going to introduce you to the afterlife, after which Chara got taken down pretty hard.
Yeah. Big man, a little gangly in that lat scrap. That said, though, I mean, while I disagree with his take, in the heat of the moment, to be able to pull out that Alex Killorn has a Harvard degree, gotta give him credit for that.
It's pretty good. But go ahead.
That's some Pierre Maguire level stuff right there.
Apparently, because they're in Boston, I was reading some of the Reddit comments after. Apparently, he brings it up every time they play Tampa Bay.
Okay.
That Killorn has a Harvard degree. I don't know if he chirps him every game, but
I'm much less impressed then.
You know what, though? You got to give the guy credit for the energy he brings to the even to like incite the amount of anger that it creates in me. That's a talent right there.
I mean, he makes you care. That's for sure a thing.
Anyways, I was listening to that, and it was distracting from what was happening on the screen. Like I was more mad about that than watching the game.
Yeah, that's understandable. Which team? So you said you certainly would understand that Tampa could catch Boston. Do you think they will catch Boston?
No, I don't.
Well, so we're primed for what's likely to be then Tampa and Toronto, robbing us of the 18th year in a row where the Leafs lose to the Bruins in the playoffs.
That's the only reason why I would want Tampa to move ahead of Boston, was so we get that Boston-Toronto playoff series, because I don't think the Toronto-Tampa playoff series is going to be nearly as exciting.
I think it'll be a real high-scoring affair.
Yeah.
This year, in 2 meetings between the Leafs and the Lightning, they've scored 17 goals in those 2 games.
And what's the record? Who's won all the games?
Tampa won 7-3 and Toronto won 4-3.
So there's a couple more games this year then between the two? Yeah,
they will have a few more coming up here for sure. And both of those were Freddie and Andrei Vasilevsky. So anytime you give 7 goals with Freddie Anderson in that, it's not looking good. They play Tampa. Toronto and Tampa play tomorrow night. They also play March 25th. So twice more this season.
Yeah. These are going to be big games for the Leafs. So let me ask you this, okay? This season, Boston-Toronto, 7-game series in round 1. Who wins?
Boston. The Leafs have played so inconsistently. I would pick almost anyone in the Eastern Conference over the Leafs in a playoff matchup.
Then I'm not even going to ask you my second question because you just answered it.
For sure. Like if I take all the teams currently in a playoff spot in the Western Conference, I would take Boston, Tampa over the Leafs. I would take Boston, Tampa, Washington, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, and maybe the 2 wildcard teams of Columbus and Carolina over them. Carolina's a hot mess of injuries right now. Their entire defense and their goaltenders are all hurt. So yeah, maybe I would take those, but
man, that's crazy. I agree with you, but it's crazy to think that that's where the Maple Leafs are at.
I mean, but then again, they've gone on heaters this year where it's like they can win everything.
Yeah, but I don't know if they've done that under that much pressure.
It's true.
I think they would crumble under the pressure of the playoffs.
I mean, there's no evidence that they haven't, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's all we've seen from them is crumbling under the pressure of the playoffs. So, well, there we go, Nick. Let's stay in the Atlantic Division for a little bit here. Actually, both of these next 2 topics are Atlantic Division questions. The Ottawa Senators.
Oh, yeah. I was about to pull up our topics. I was like, why are we talking so much about the Atlantic Division? But yeah, we need to talk about that.
So this week, some news came out with the firing of some upper management.
More drama in the Sens organization.
So they fired CEO Jim Little, was let go by the team 2 months after being hired for the job. So Sens are like, you know what? Here we go. We got some exciting news, team. We've got this new CEO. He's going to take us places. We're going to do great. And then he's fired. But the question is not that he was fired. The questions become the whys.
And the reporters have been asking those questions.
And getting very different answers depending on who you ask.
Of course.
So the statements coming out from Jim Little initially, or I guess first from the team, they said he was fired for conduct inconsistent with the core values of the Ottawa Senators and the National Hockey League. And I say to myself, well, the core values of the Ottawa Senators are all over the map. I'm not even sure they could identify the core values of the Ottawa Senators.
But a very political answer.
It's true, right? And one that you can very easily defend.
Yep.
Right? Why'd you fire him? Went against our values.
Yep.
Right? I'm not sure what Eugene Melnick's values were in that situation, but some news came out that in Jim Little's statement regarding the situation, he said there was a personal disagreement. I am a strong-willed person, and the disagreement included me using some very strong language with him over the phone, including swearing, which he did not appreciate and for which I later apologized. It was these events, to my knowledge, which led to my dismissal. Any other inference from the statement is wrong. So he's saying, look, I didn't do anything super terrible. I just swore at my boss.
Yeah. And then there was one further quote. I don't know if you got that one lined up.
I'm trying to find another one. Again, there's so much misinformation around this. Because there was one that was an unsubstantiated tweet that came out. Is that the one you're referring to?
No, I'm referring to Elliot Friedman's report on Saturday Night Headlines on Hockey Night in Canada.
Okay, well, I'll share this one while we pull up the next, because in the meantime, while all of this was happening, the report that came out was rumors that the disagreement started over a tip. I don't know if you saw this.
I did not see this one.
So this was the one that came out, and it was just like a screen cap of something else. And here's what happened. Eugene Melnick went to go to the bathroom, and he said, "Hey, Jim, you pay for the bill. Reimburse, you put it on the company card. Only tip 8%.
Oh, no, Eugene.
And Jim Little said, it's too little. He took the company card, and he tipped a whole whopping 12% on that. And while that happened, that was what started this whole kerfuffle.
Come on.
And that is where the Ottawa Senators are at, is that this person who was able to post this without any sort of like credential or any sort of like news to back it up, everyone just bought it. And they're like, yeah, I can see that happening.
Who posted that? Is that just like a Twitter egg?
It wasn't a full egg, but it was like someone I have never seen before and will probably never see again. Because you know what? You only get to report something like that wrongly once.
Oh my God. That sounds like a joke a comedian would make up about the Ottawa Senators organization.
Yeah. Well, that took off quite a bit there. So what Elliot Friedman had to
12%,
say...
12% though, even 12%. Come on, Little.
Let's
talk about Little.
That is what I'm talking... Like, that's all that you've got?
Unless they went like balls to the wall with their meal.
I mean, still not okay. Well, can you summarize Elliot Friedman's report on Saturday?
Yeah, this is Saturday Night Headlines during the second intermission of Hockey Night in Canada. He reported that Jim Little yelled at Eugene Melnick for about 10 minutes. This is on the phone. He yelled at him for 10 minutes. And at one point said, the best thing that can happen to the Ottawa Senators is if you disappeared for 12 months. I can't get through without laughing. It's not funny, but it's kind of true. But you can't say that to your boss.
No, not at all. I like that he's like, yeah, the thing that I said, I swore. That's probably why. It was my swearing. I used some strong language.
I have no doubt that it was riddled with F-bombs.
Oh, probably.
But I just like, I work in corporate environment, and I have worked in a corporate environment my entire career. I've never seen people get that mad at each other that they swear and say these kinds of things to each other. That is like, if that happened, that is absolutely grounds for dismissal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't say that to anyone, let alone your boss.
I mean, yeah, no, you can't. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I've been in some meetings that have gotten pretty heated. Well, I know that I have been, right? But nothing that's gotten anywhere close to that.
This is just like pure emotion.
Yeah.
Like this is obviously high stakes. People are feeling a lot of pressure, and they're letting their emotions get the best of them.
I mean, it's a real healthy work environment that Eugene's fostering over there.
Oh my God. Well, we knew it wasn't healthy.
A guy who's been on the job for 2 months. I mean, this guy comes in. That's a fresh perspective on the organization. And he's like, I've been here for a couple months, and you know what, Eugene? You got to go.
But you know what the benefit to Eugene Melnick is in all of this? You fired him while he was still under his 3-month probation, so he probably didn't have to. He probably didn't have to pay severance.
Eugene probably was really forcing the issue there. He's like, "All right, Jim, let's test it out. Tip 12%, 8%, 7, 5. Don't even tip. Just walk out. Don't even pay. Let's go. We're going to the bathroom. I'll meet you out back.
I'll meet you out back. Bring the car around.
Yeah.
Meet you by the dumpster.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Never a dull moment in Ottawa. And unfortunately, Senators fans, Jim Little's right.
Yeah, he is. That's just the stuff you say in IMs to your colleagues.
Yeah. Those are the things that you say in an Uber on your way back from a game. You don't say those things publicly.
God, I love this team.
So good. All right, Nick. Florida Panthers retiring Roberto Luongo's jersey number. Quite the legacy that he's had. And probably like the fastest I've ever seen anyone go from retired to jersey retired.
When did he actually retire? I didn't even realize he was like legit retired.
Yeah, it was last offseason.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Roberto Luongo officially retired this offseason, and now still works with the team, but now a retired jersey in Florida.
The first Florida Panther retired number, right?
I would think so. Who else? I mean, maybe they
ever retired Scott Millenbee's jersey?
I mean, I was thinking like Valerie Bure, maybe.
John Van Beesbrook.
Yeah. Florida Panthers have retired 2. Bill Torrey.
I've never even heard that name before.
So the first president of the team, the first owner of the team. Apparently they get jerseys retired.
He had a number?
I don't know what. One was 93 for the team year that the team came.
Okay.
And I don't know why the other one is also retired, but that's what you get. You've got some retired jersey numbers. Roberto Luongo certainly deserving of his jersey being retired.
So he's the first player to have their jersey retired in Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. He joins the iconic 93 and 37 in the rafters.
Well, I mean, he's a worthy recipient of that, though.
I mean, most certainly, especially as we sat here and regaled all the accolades of former Florida Panthers. Like, I'm fairly certain next number retired is probably going to be whatever number they give Joel Quenneville's mustache. I think that would be the next number to retire there.
Yeah. Or they could retire Sergei Bobrovsky's cap hit.
It's true.
Just put that in the banners, make him watch that go up, and then set it on fire.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things could be good. I mean, anything to have a banner ceremony in Florida. They don't get a lot of them, Nick.
No, they don't.
They're not getting a lot. So much like the Nashville Predators, who put up banners for just about anything, Florida should probably do the same.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't see the whole ceremony, but it seemed like it was a pretty emotional one, which I wasn't really expecting from the Luongos.
Yeah, turns out, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Roberto's got a soft spot. He's always been known to wear his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah.
But the rest of the family, the organization, a very good ceremony, exactly what you would want when retiring someone who means so much to the team and really seeing how much he cares about what's happened for his career.
So Luongo, jersey retired. What's next? HHOF?
Gotta think so, right? I mean, he's got a lengthy career. He's done a lot. No Stanley Cups.
Yeah, he's missing some hardware.
What do you think?
No Vezina trophies.
I was gonna say I did not believe he'd ever won a Vezina.
No.
Even the closest he ever came, he won the Jennings Trophy.
Yeah.
1 year.
Which is for what again?
That's for like least goals against.
Okay.
He finished third in Vezina voting that year, behind. Waiting for it. Tim Thomas. So that was in 2010, 2011. Tim Thomas and Pekka Rinne finished ahead of him that year.
You know what's a fun fact about Tim Thomas that I discovered this evening?
This is not what I was expecting to do. I have zero idea, Nick.
Since you brought him up, he has the highest playoff career save percentage all time.
That's pretty good. With like obviously some sort of like games threshold.
933.
That's good. That is.
Anyways, back to Luongo.
I mean, Luongo's career save percentage is probably quite small because he has a very small sample size.
Right? For playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so as a player, he has only played in 70 NHL playoff games.
Yeah.
Winning only 34 of them, which is much less than that. He does have his Florida Panthers save percentage surpasses Tim Thomas's career. So maybe if just the Panthers had surrounded him with a little bit better talent, he could have been better. Alas.
Yeah. Story of Florida's life.
I mean, so if you look at where he's at, what he's done, he has 600, no, that's not the right number, 489 career wins.
It's third all time, right?
Played in 1,044 games over 19 seasons. Left the Vancouver Canucks with a giant cap hit, which we can all enjoy and celebrate.
Yeah.
I think he's in. I think he is in the Hall of Fame.
You know what I think puts him in there? Is the 2010 gold medal.
Gold medals help, right?
I think if he doesn't have that, he's it's a bigger question in my opinion.
Right.
Because hardware helps.
Certainly.
And he doesn't have much of it.
Not a whole lot. I mean, if you look at other goaltenders that are in the Hall of Fame, right? Like Ed Belfour is a Hall of Fame goaltender. Roberto Luongo is better than Ed Belfour.
Agreed.
Right? Like he has done more on the ice, has more accolades than Belfour does. For sure. I mean, Belfour also has the team accomplishments. He has 2 Vezinas, but like numbers wise, outside of that, like pretty similar. The hardware aside, and I never like to really get into hardware because it's certainly a big number, right? To be able to say, 2-time Vezina winner, Stanley Cup champion, but to look at the rest of what he's done outside of that, it's hard to be on a bad team and also win the Vezina. That's not going to happen. Roberto Luongo is worthy of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you. So is Chris Osgood. Next topic?
No. Here's a choice for you, Nick. We can either go to the Elimination Station or we can skip it for this week, and we'll spend the rest of the episode convincing you Chris Osgood does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
I don't think we can skip the Elimination Station this week.
All right, Nick, let's go there. All right. This. The Elimination Station is powered by Park Power. Thank you very much to them for providing us with all the power needed to eliminate an NHL team. Do you know, Nick, it takes a lot of power to eliminate someone from the playoffs?
It does.
Well, and we have that power thanks to our friends at Park Power. Parkpower.ca. Head on over there and find out what they can do to give you the power that you need to make your dreams happen like we do when it comes to eliminating playoff teams. So parkpower.ca, a great place for you to find all of your utilities and natural gas in Alberta. Are you doing okay over there, Nick?
I'm tangled in a wire. My chair is like tangled. I unplugged it from the wall accidentally, and now it's tangled. I'll be fine. I'm going to plug back into this power, and we're going to get to the Elimination Station.
All right, you plug into our Park Power. But first, every week, the Elimination Station is how we pick one team that's eliminated from the playoffs and give the solutions to fix them. We're coming right down to the wire of this NHL season. We have a number of teams, and Nick has graciously volunteered to track them this year. So, Nick, can you let us know?
Yeah.
Who have we already eliminated?
It's a thankless job, but someone's got to do it. So far, we have eliminated my Detroit Red Wings, the Jim Littleless Ottawa Senators, the Los Angeles Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Minnesota Wild, the New Jersey Devils, the San Jose Sharks, the Buffalo Sabres, the New York Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, and I don't know how they made it this long, the Chicago Blackhawks.
All right, so Nick, that is a total of 6 teams in the Eastern Conference and 5 teams in the Western Conference. We have eliminated 11 teams. We have to eliminate 15. There is 4 more, 2 per conference. Do you have? Last week you said, I don't want to put up a fight. You've got this lovely spring fever happening over there. Are you also in a very gracious mood this week?
I'm not in a gracious enough mood to take anyone out of the station.
No. We're not doing that. I mean, certainly the Minnesota Wild, I shared my concerns last week. They're currently in the playoffs, Nick.
They are. It's a tight race, Carl. It's a tight race.
I'm nervous. Look, hear about this. That's a sentence. Hear about this, Nick.
Let me hear about it.
Hear about this. Here are the teams currently out of the playoffs and in the wildcard spots and generally on that bubble that have not been eliminated per conference. How about that? Will that help us solve this predicament?
Yeah.
All right. In the Eastern Conference, we have the Florida Panthers, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the New York Islanders, Carolina Hurricanes, and Columbus Blue Jackets. I would say one of those teams would be the ones to pick from if we're in the East. Looking out West, we have the Winnipeg Jets, the Nashville Predators, Vancouver Canucks, and the Calgary Flames. All of those have less than 80 points and are within 3 points or less of missing the playoffs.
You missed one, and I think it's the team that I would eliminate this week.
I did miss one. You are correct.
The Arizona Coyotes.
I did miss them. That's because they're so far down, I assumed we'd eliminate them. That's why we need your list.
So is that where we're going? That's kind of where I'm leaning.
I'm leaning there as well. Let's do it, Nick. Welcome to the Elimination Station, Arizona. There we go, Nick. One team done. Hopefully, when we eliminate the next team in the West, we're done. We've only got one more team left out there.
Oh, man. Sweating over here. It's because it's plus 10 degrees.
Yeah, we know, Nick. We know. So what is your solution? The Arizona Coyotes, they went for it, right?
Oh, yeah, they did. I mean, they were in a good spot. They were in a good spot. So what happened to the Arizona Coyotes? They traded for Taylor Hall when? I can't remember.
Taylor Hall, that was November.
It was back in November?
No, I think it was January. I'm sure there's an internet that can tell us those things.
It was after they had been doing really well.
Oh yeah, they traded for him while in a playoff spot.
And starting in January, pretty much, if you look down their game sheet, there is a lot more L's than W's.
So you have their game sheet pulled up with the schedule, because I'm going to tell you, Nick, Taylor Hall, his first game with the Coyotes of Arizona occurred on December 17th.
Okay, so you were kind of you were close. You undershot it, then you overshot it, and it landed right in the middle.
I said November, I said December, and I also said January. I'm just listing off half the season and hoping I'm right.
So they've won 13 games with Taylor Hall.
And are currently sitting with a record that has them with 33 wins. So they've won 20 games without him, 13 games with him.
I don't think Taylor Hall is going to re-sign in Arizona.
No. Why would he?
So what's wrong with this team? Is there something wrong with this team? Or are they just unlucky?
No, there's definitely something wrong with this team. Absolutely there is. Yeah.
Because we talked about Carolina going through the ringer with injuries. This team hasn't been very healthy either.
I mean, part of their biggest problem is the fact that Antti Ranta is just not a healthy individual from an injury perspective. I won't speak to the rest of his life, but he cannot stay healthy.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, they cannot count on him as a player who will be healthy. You just can't. It's great when you have him, but you know that he is not going to be able to play 50 games a season.
So they need a reliable goaltender, starting goalie.
Which is what they've got, right? Darcy Kemper, been the better goalie on that roster this year.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that now you have Ranta, who's been given that shot, right? Because he has been good. He has been doing that. So that's hurt you, right? Now Darcy Kemper's come in, been good enough to be a playoff team. But you've got that. Outside of it, I mean, the core of this team has been fairly healthy, right? Sure, right now there is a number of injuries with this team, right? Derek Stepan had an injury scare of late. He avoided that, right? You've got who's the Jacob Churchin, currently out.
Yep.
But most of this roster has played all these games this year. I don't give them that excuse. They're just not good enough.
Yeah, they currently have one 20-goal scorer in Connor Garland. They have, I don't know if anyone on this team is going to score 30 goals this year.
I would say no.
That's a problem. So they need goal scoring.
Certainly need goal scoring. I would say they need... I think that this roster is good enough, obviously good enough to contend for a playoff spot. I would say a new head coach would help this team. Because how long are you giving Rick Tocchet out there?
How long's he been out there now? He's been out there for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Few years.
Yeah. Not good enough, right? This team has not... I mean, they've improved over him, but they've also improved the roster while he's been there.
They've given him better tools to work with. And they're kind of getting the same results. So yeah, I'd agree with you. Make a coaching change. There's some pretty good coaches out on the market right now. So maybe they make a move for one of those.
You certainly can. They do have cap hit wise. They have a weird situation, but they've got lots of money coming off the books. Carl Soderberg, his deal's done after this year. That's a pretty big cap hit. Taylor Hall obviously going to be gone. And then their defense core lockdown, goaltending lockdown. So there's not even that much flexibility that they have, which is a problem.
And they're right up against the cap, eh?
They are. Part of that comes down to the fact that they also have Marian Hossa's contract on the books.
Yeah, but he's LTIR.
Absolutely. With the Taylor Hall trade, do not have a first-round pick next year or a third-round pick. So this is a team that, like, you need some of these younger players to start stepping up, developing. Things like Dylan Strome not developing into the player they thought he would be have really hurt this team.
Yeah, and also Phil Kessel not playing like Phil Kessel has hurt this team.
Right. I think a lot of the moves that they've made in a vacuum look very good, right? Like the Derek Stepan trade and the signing of him. Picking him up would be a good thing. Execution, less so. Phil Kessel, right? He had a good year last year. And when you look at what you gave up for him, right? Alex Galchenyuk, sure, yeah, great. But not performing to what he should be.
Your thoughts on the captain, Oliver Ekman-Larsson?
I think he's good. I think he's probably worth $8.25 million that they're paying him. I don't think they could have. That was a situation where you had to keep him. You had to find a way you had to pay up to get him to stay. So
I agree.
I agree with that one. But like next year, they've got the Clayton Keller deal kicks in. Didn't have to sign him for $7 million a year, right? Like some of these deals where you're paying these players potentially a premium because you need somebody.
Yeah.
And that becomes a very slippery slope.
Yeah. So you think John Chayka is going to make some moves this offseason? Try and bring in some scoring power?
I mean, John Chayka is always making moves. That is the thing.
He is not afraid to deal them. Certainly
trust that John Chayka is going to do something this offseason. He will make some sort of a move. What that is, because if I would not have picked Taylor Hall to be on this team, I would not have picked Phil Kessel to be on this team. John Chayka is going to do something that surprises me.
They're an interesting case. It's too bad they fell out of it. I would have really liked to see how they performed in a playoff situation, but I don't know. They don't have the goal scoring ability. Like, I'm gonna pull up their team stats to see how many goals for they have.
Ooh, all right. While Nick does that, I will remind you all that this Elimination Station has been powered by Park Power. And while you still can, before sporting events are canceled all across North America, Nick, I forgot to mention this off the top of the show, before these are canceled, head on over to Seat Giant, where you can buy tickets for everyone who does not want to go to games. For whatever reason, they're probably selling their tickets at Seat Giant. Go to seatgiant.ca, use promo code APN, and you will save 5%, Nick. That is great. Makes a night out. I mean, that's a free meal, perhaps, at the stadium, depending on what you're getting. My food of choice is the Pocket Dog in Calgary, which is half a Subway sandwich hollowed out with a hot dog stuck in it, and you just put all the condiments down the hole.
Huh.
It's great. It's my favorite way to eat a hot dog. And you could save enough money to buy one of those, plus a beverage, using promo code APN at Seat Giant.
I thought the Pocket Dog was the hot dog you snuck into the arena in your pocket.
I mean, I wouldn't say no to that either. There's a one of those, pizza by the slice places across the street from the arena. Just sneak one of those in. I mean, people in Detroit are sneaking all kinds of things in their pants. The least I could do is fit a pizza in.
Yes, they are. Gotta love the Red Wings fans.
What's the word on the Arizona Coyotes, Nick?
They're bottom third in goals for in the league. That's not good enough. They need to score more goals.
What are they? What is their goals against rank? We're talking about goaltending.
They're top 3 in goals against.
So they're keeping the goals out. Darcy Kemper
keeping the goals out,
doing his job.
Only 179 goals against.
That's pretty good. So get some goal. Which, if bringing in Taylor Hall and Phil Kessel's not enough to get some goal scoring, I'm not sure what they're going to do, but they got to figure something out.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Nick. Let's get to our Pavel Bure must-watch games of the week. This is where we tell you which games are going to be good, and as we get closer to the playoffs, we will have more and more and more divisional matchups, which are going to be good. Some playoff previews, such as tomorrow night, Nick, where we have the aforementioned Tampa Bay Lightning and Toronto Maple Leafs matchup happening.
That's the game tomorrow.
Absolutely. The other one, you could also watch Senators at the Ducks if you really wanted to. Exactly. With games with playoff implications on Wednesday, there's really only one that stands out to me.
Are you talking about Winnipeg Edmonton?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'll watch that.
Jets at Oilers. And the Oilers are a lot of fun to watch right now. They're going to score. It's just how many goals will Mike Smith give up? That's the real question at hand here. All right, Nick, Thursday, March the 12th. What do you think?
Thursday, March the 12th. Oh, man. Well, talking about playoff implications, Nashville and Toronto is going to be a big one. Pittsburgh and Columbus, that's always a good game.
Especially in Columbus, because Columbus fans really hate Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always a good game.
It's like how Blue Jays fans hate the Red Sox and the Yankees, but no one cares about them when they're going the other way. It's a nice one-sided rivalry.
It totally is.
It's becoming slightly less, but that'll be fun that it's in Columbus.
Yeah. Agreed.
And if you want to watch the aforementioned Arizona Coyotes, they're playing Vancouver, 2 teams currently out of the playoffs trying to get in.
Vancouver's out of the playoffs right now?
Just kidding, Nick. They're tied for the last spot.
Oh, phew.
Numbers are hard.
I was like, wait, am I going crazy?
They're tied with Nashville, but they're 2 points apart, so that could really swing it if Arizona were to win that game.
Absolutely. Friday the 13th. Which spooky game are you watching?
I'm going to watch the these are all... Edmonton and the Islanders.
It's probably the best game that night.
Probably the best game. Colorado, Vancouver. Vancouver fighting for a playoff spot as well. Let's see how they do.
Yeah.
But Friday's probably a day where you should... if you're going to take a day this week, just hang out with some friends or family.
It's a good day for it.
Which brings us to Saturday, Nick. I think the game that we are all going to be watching Saturday afternoon looks to see if the Red Wings can make it 2 in a row against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Hey, can't wait.
That'll be a hot one. And a great slate of games in the evening.
Yeah. Toronto Boston's going to be good.
Pittsburgh, Carolina,
yeah.
Nashville, Columbus, Winnipeg, Calgary. Lots of teams coming down to it.
Big hockey night, Saturday night.
Sunday, less big games. You've got, two playoff teams facing off each other, Colorado and Vegas. That'll be a good one.
Nice afternoon game, too, for the West Coast.
Yeah. It's right in the middle of the NASCAR race, so I'll have, 2 screens going for that one.
Double screening it, yeah.
Yep. Outside of that, we've got a lot of non-playoff teams playing.
Yeah.
That day.
That's probably the game that day.
Probably. The Saturday night or the Sunday night game, Winnipeg, Vancouver. Again, 2 playoff teams fighting. Could be interesting. Which I never thought. At the start of the year, if you would have said, Carl, how many Vancouver Canucks games will be in the Pavel Bures? Didn't think it'd be that many.
Who knew, right? Maybe this guy who called the Canucks making the playoffs in our preseason segment.
Did you do that?
I did it.
Wow, you're so smart.
I did it. Thank you, Carl.
Wow, you should have a podcast, Nick.
Maybe I'll start my own.
Well, if you do, can I be on it like maybe just once?
Sure. Why not?
Thanks.
I'll let you host it. How about that?
Oh, why? Thank you. What an honor. I think that's now. We can talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about branding.
Okay, good idea.
All right, Nick. For more about our show, if you've stuck through our Pablo Berries and you're now here, you can go to thefourthlinepodcast.com. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are. And if you like us, subscribe. If you don't like us, please also subscribe. We like it. Just do us a favor. We appreciate you. We appreciate you listening. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. We will be back next week where we eliminate one of the final 3 teams. We're down to 3 more, Nick.
Man, my heart's racing.
We are going to be eliminating a team like 2 weeks before the playoffs actually start. You realize that, right?
Yeah.
Like we've got a team on March 16th, March 20th, and no, that's not a number. It is a number actually, but that's not the right one. The 16th, the 23rd, and March 30th, we eliminate our final team and then just hope we're right.
We did it to ourselves. We've got no one else to blame.
It was a brilliant idea that we had. And by we, I mean me. I convinced you. You're like, should we do this? I'm like, yeah, it'll be great. And now I'm nervous. You've got heart palpitations. I'm sorry, Nick.
It's what it's all about, Carl.
Well, that's what the joy of playoff hockey is all about. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next week.
It's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. No one wants the players to get really sick. So we must expel Eugene Melnick.